La 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 la. You and me in the moonlight.
So what's up mga rebels? It's your teacher Aya, stay room Gen 3 Remy Dasma. While in studies time of the game, and subscribe to our lesson. I promise to keep you entertained. So welcome back to our lesson tutorial. So here's module number 6.
1 hour later.
Okay, so module number 6 for disciplines and ideas in social sciences tackles about social work processes, especially problem-solving operations. So here in our lesson, I'm not going to explain to you step by step the different processes kasi hindi nyo naman siya kailangan in the future because these are just the samples of methods and para siyang scientific process, diba? May hypothesis, may gathering information, but this is just an outline or background information for you to understand the work of social workers in gathering problem solving and their methods to heal the society, especially helping different communities. So let's begin. First one, here's some definition of problem solving. First, we know that study, diagnosis, and treatment, these three terms are involved in social work. So definitely study, these are the facts or that constitute and bear upon the problem must be ascertained and grasped. So that's study. And then diagnosis, this process is just have to be examined, the relationship. You need to diagnose first the problem before you proceed for the treatment. It's like problem and solution. So treatment, it is a solution after you gather your information from your study and then go to your diagnosis. So you have a good decision making in involving with different problems or challenges in your community. Next one, according to Mendoza 2002, these are the 5 basic steps of social work process. Okay, pinlat ko siya in a table with beginning, middle, and ending. So in beginning, we need to have or to process, assessment, and planning. While in the middle, it involves intervention or planning, and the implementation of the plan. And the ending, syempre, evaluation and termination. So to evaluate the plans and then to terminate the process that are not good or there's no good result about the assessment, planning, intervention, or plan and implementation. So it's just going to repeat the process again and again if it's failed or the results are not good to the community. So that's the 5 basic steps of social work process: assessment, planning, intervention or plan, implementation, evaluation, and the last one is termination. So that's beginning, middle, and ending. Next, let's define assessment. As we all know, during our counseling lesson, okay, in third quarter, there are also 6 process or stages in counseling. So here in social work, there's also a process. So alam naman, assessment is just to assess, no? To collect data, to gather information, to analyze, to interpret, and understand for the betterment of the client and to solve the problem. So assessment is the beginning. It's the gathering of data to know what are the problems, to apply the solutions in the community, social workers, especially the common good. So that's the definition of assessment. So here's the different sources of information when it comes to assessment. First one, we have the primary source. From the word itself, primary, meaning it's premier. It's the first source that we need to know or to find. That's the client's primary data or the biological information about the client. The second one, we have the secondary source. Secondary source involves parents, siblings, relatives, and friends that the client have personal relationships. So it's a secondary source regarding the relationship of the client with other people in or his or her surroundings. The third one, we have existing data. So existing data meaning it is the record from other professionals of the client such as the physicians, teachers, and psychologists. These are the documents or records based on the agencies such as the census data, researches, and evaluation reports regarding the client's condition in the community. And the last one is the worker's observation. It involves seeing, experiencing the physical condition, economic activities, community interaction, resources. It involves the big society or the big surrounding of the client when it comes to different sources of information. So that's the 4 assessment that the social worker needs to know for a client: the primary source, secondary source, existing data, and the worker's observation. Next, there are also the initial contact between the client and worker when it comes to 3 different ways. So aside from the 4 sources, meron din tayo ditong 3 ways. It's about the contact naman between client and worker. First, meron tayong tinatawag namang walk-in clients. So from the word itself, walk-in, this is the actual gathering or the process that the client initiates the contact and seek the assistance of the agency of the social worker. Diba? Is the position to provide help is the direct relationship between the client and the worker. While referral is the refer, meaning the client is referred to the social worker or social welfare agency by means of having a concerned party or entity. Example natin dito ng referral entities such as the relative, neighbor, teacher, school, church, and barangay council. So these are the agencies that manages the client to be referred to the SWD especially to address the client's problem. And then the third one, we have the outreach. Outreach meaning after they refer to the agency through social workers, reaches to the prospective clients to offer help and eventually arrives at the agreement of engaging into helping relationship, and then it's gonna be a big group or a community achieve the status of the clients. So first you have the walk-in, you have the referral, and you have the outreach for a big picture of the society. So that's the 3 relationship between client and worker when it comes to ways of preparing to each individual. Next, the first one is assessment, the second one is planning. We all know that from the word itself, planning, it is the link between assessment and intervention, because before you have or implement the process, you need to undergo planning. Why? Because the process translates the content of assessment into a goal statement. So the desired result should be satisfied or should be assessed very well. So it means you need to plan, the goals should be expected, the outcomes should be there, and it must consist of actions or steps to be done in order to reach the goals. So first one, the most important thing is planning aside from assessment. Next one, intervention. It is the actual interaction between the client and the social worker. So in intervention, nakalagay nga dyan, it is on actions. It's about filling all the specific services that is appropriate to the needs of the client's problem. So it's just a series of activities, such as donations or agreement between the social workers and the clients in a community. That's intervention. And then the fourth process involved in social work is known as the evaluation. Evaluation meaning after you gather the information, after you apply it, after you intervene with the process, you need to evaluate. You need to collect the data if it is good or bad, or the feedback of the actions. It is the collection of data about outcomes of the program and after you implement the program. So it means after you gather the evaluation, you need to assess and assess again. You need to revise. You need to plan again after you get the evaluation if it is effective. Kaya nga nakalagay dyan, it is continuous process of gathering information, because evaluation is not just the end of the planning, of the implementation, but instead it is all about the revision of the gathered data. So, para mas maging effective siya lalo. So, that's the meaning of evaluation. So, there's 2 aspects of evaluation. The first one, we have effectiveness and the efficiency. So, there's a difference between the two. If you say effectiveness, it refers to the question, effective ba ito? That's the question. Whether or not the services or intervention plans are accomplishing their intended goals. So it means effective. Is the plan effective for everyone? Is the plan really works for everyone? So that's effectiveness. You're going to measure the effectivity of the plans. Second, we have efficiency. When it comes to efficiency, it involves money, the cost of services. If the money is very efficient to the population of the community, when you intervene with the goals, money and time, it's just the money but also the time spent during the activities or the actions being applied by the social workers. So that's the two aspects of evaluation. Next one, there are also two levels of evaluation. First one, it is the level of direct practice with clients, the actual practice. And the second one, the program implementation. After they practice their profession, they're going to have or plan the program for implementation of the plans. Okay, there's also an elements or variables. Diba, alam naman natin, inputs. Inputs, these are the resources used in a program or intervention. Activities, this is the actual actions produced from the inputs. It's the result of the plan. It's the independent variable. Why? Because, the cause and effect of the program, activities should be applied very well in a community. And then, it is being measured by the outputs. What are the immediate results of the activities coming from the inputs? So, that's inputs, activities, and outputs. I will give you an example. Example is, first, inputs. In inputs, we have workers' time, budget, directory, contact persons, clients of cooperation. So the main activities is about the referral to a company or possible employer. No, it's about referral. While the outputs, after being referred to the job, they're going to secure a better paying job. No, if the outcomes here in activities, they got a very low job or low salary job, the outputs, they may have the tendency to change the job to have a better pay. So, lilipat sila, di ba? So, the outcomes, increase self-esteem and self-reliance. After na sila ay makontento dun sa kanilang job, mas mag-i-increase ang kanilang self-esteem and self-reliance because they are now contented with the work they have. If they figure out another good paying job mula dun sa activities, so it's just like trial and error when you go to the process of social work. Inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes. That's the example. Next, for the last process in social work, we have the termination. So, termination is to terminate, to remove, to eradicate. No, these are the common reasons for terminating client-worker relationship. What are the reasons that are we going to consider in order to terminate the relationship between the two? First one, we have when the goals of the worker have been reached. So, hindi lang, pag sinabi natin termination, it's not just the negative aspect of removing or releasing the relationship, but meron din niyang positive aspects. So, here, when the goals set by worker have been reached, so it's achieved na yung kanilang goals. Second one, kapag na-attain na nila yung formulated goals and the prospect for the changes in situation. Kapag after nilang ma-evaluate, nakita nila sa evaluation that the result is very good. So, exactly, it is being attained, it is being achieved in the process of social work. Pero kapag hindi, they're going to try and try again. Between the revision, they will going to plan again for the better of the community. So, the third one, we have sufficient help if they already allowed to give effort, sufficient help in the society. So, they're going to pursue again from the problem solving. And then the fourth one, when the agency does not have the resources needed by the client, or if the worker does not get the approval of the agency to provide the needs of the client, so they're going to find again another solicitations. No, hindi lang kasi yung agency ang makapagbibigay nun, but instead, they're going to find another agency. The fifth one, the systems outside and the client made it difficult for the client to continue with the helping relationship. So, another revise. Parang research lang siya. If it is not good in applying in one community, you're going to revise again. You need to find another solution. And the sixth one, when for one reason or another, the worker must leave the agency. So, this is the most saddest part of social work. Kung talaga na-work yan sa community, the last option will be termination or the negative aspect, which is need to leave the agency, you need to find another one. So that's the 6 processes of social work. And then, ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo, after ng termination, meron siyang dalawa pang process. The first one, transfer. Diba? After you leave the agency, you need to transfer to another agency. Like, ito yung another organization that you want to. It's about referred to social worker, another worker, usually in the same agency. So, pwedeng sa same agency siya, pero iba siyang branch. Next one, referral. Ire-refer ka naman sa susunod na agency. So, yung transfer, it is within, no? Nandun pa siya sa loob ng isang agency. But referral, you need to transfer, you need to find another one behind the agency that you came from. So, that's it. Now, let's move to methods of social work. So, meron na tayong processes. This time, we have the methods in social work. So, first one, we have traditional methods. So, ang constituent nitong traditional methods, we have social casework. Naka-highlight dyan, na pagdaanan na din dun sa ibang module, that social casework is all about giving of material assistance, referrals to another community facilities, rendering emotional and psychological support, making suggestions and advising. Kaya nga siya traditional methods because it's just a manual relationship of consisting activities, manual connections between the present attitudes and mode adjustment of the experiences of the social workers and the clients. No, meron talaga dyang socially, emotionally, and psychologically facilities. So that's the meaning of traditional methods which involve social casework. So, eto pa yung iba't ibang example, nilagay ko na example ng casework techniques. O example natin dyan, first one, environmental modification. So, it involves the environment, syempre. Clarification is about the reality. Nandyan may psychology din, ego's ability, no balance, understanding feelings. And then, psychological support is all about the behavior, the confidence, the interest of the client. And then, the insight development is comparing the present and the past experiences. So, in order to have a bring good atmosphere and treatment of the situation. So, there's the 4 example of social casework techniques. Next, social group. When you know social group, from the word itself, it is a process and method through which group life is affected by a worker who consciously guides the interaction process toward and the accomplishment of goals which are conceived in a democratic frame of reference. So, meron tayong kinabibilangang social group. According to social workers, meron tayo ditong community organization. I don't need to explain further this topic because from the word itself, community organization is just the example. What involves a community organization? Rank, needs, resources, actions, development. Diba? Yun yung involved sa community organization when you're going to build an organization, especially in the community. So, next, kanina meron tayong primary, traditional methods rather. So, meron naman tayong secondary social work methods. So, ito na yung tinatawag natin na social action or social reform. So, when we say social action and social reform, it is an organized effort with the aim of securing social progress and solving mass social problems. So, pag sinabi natin social reform, it's all about social changes. It's about revising the old ways. No? It is the promotion of another research. You need to research again. You need to change. You need to plan. In order to be more reliable and factual. That's secondary social work methods under social action and social reform. Aside from that, of course, nandyan ang social work research. Research, meron na naman tayo ditong scientific processes, gathering of data, hypotheses, assumptions, diba? So, resolutions, social welfare administration. This involves agencies naman. At ito din, kababanggit ko lang kanina, ito pa yung iba nating example of the processes na nakuha natin sa iba't iba nating source. So, nandyan din, ganun din yun, planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordination, reporting, and budgeting. So, naulit lang ulit siya. And then, meron tayong tools in social work. Ito naman yung mga ginagamit. Kung yung sa una, methods, meron tayo dong social reform, social action, and social casework process. Here, we're going to discuss the tools in social work. First one, interview. Siyempre, we know interview, it is a face-to-face interaction of giving information. Second one, we have the communication. Siyempre, kapag may interview, hindi tayo mawawala ng communication. Communication from the Latin word communis, meaning to make common and communicare, to share or impart, is a two process. So, it's just a give and take relationship between the client and the social worker. So, eto, sa module number 7, kasi etong module 6, this is the last topic in the discipline of social work. Module 7 and until the last module is all about the discipline of communication kasi 'di ba? Tatlo nga yung discipline under applied social sciences. We have the discipline of counseling, the discipline of communication, and the discipline of social work. So etong huli, ang discipline of communication. So hindi ko muna to i-discuss sa inyo kasi it will be discussed on the next module. So ayan, source, message, channel, receiver, and feedback. So yun yung laman ng communication. Third one, we have records. So, of course, we need to have a record to track and monitor the progress of the clients when it comes to evaluation and decision making. Types, ito, hindi ko na muna iaano sa inyo kasi hindi naman ito magagamit. It's in-depth research in social work. May mga forms, may records na ginagawa. Ayan, case study, summarize, recording, summary processes. So, ayan. Ayan pa, case conference reports, home visitation, evaluation statement, and closing summary. Kasi itong mga records na to, these are just the guiding sample of forms kapag nandun na kayo sa field ng social work. Ito yung mga ginagawa nilang forms in identifying the problem and solution of actions within the community. So, ayan yung mga yun. So, community resources. So, involved dito, Department of Health, no? Ayan, planning institutions, social welfare, United Nations Children's Fund, PCSO. So, these are the supporting agencies in the Philippines when it comes to social work. Third one, we have program activities. So, aside from the agencies, meron din diyang treatment regarding social behaviors under siya ng program activities. And then, next, I think it's the last, is the ecological map, eco map. So, kapag sinabi natin ecological map, this is the blueprint, the simple paper and pencil simulation that has been developed as an assessment, planning, and intervention tool. So after they gather the process, ecological map, this will be the result. This is the action plan, the map of the processes of social work. So that's the end of module number 6.
A few minutes later.
Let's dance now.
Module number 6.